A few months ago, our Champions League campaign looked dead and buried, but somehow Aberdeen fought their way into the knockout rounds. Now we need a new hero to keep this dream alive. Welcome back to the Sir Alex Ferguson Aberdeen Challenge here on Super Sammy Plays. After two huge victories in our final Champions League phase games, we've comfortably qualified for the knockout playoff round. We're still yet to find out who we will be playing. We're just praying that it isn't Benfica. If you know, you know. So, who will it be? Let's get into it and find out. And we're going to be jumping straight into a match in this one as we go away to Livingston in the league. And get off to a great start in this one with Profundi causing all sorts of chaos for the defenders as he puts it into the back of the net to give us a 1-goal lead. And then Milovanovic just before half-time pulling it back to Sato. Cheeky little back heel. Lovely little bit of play between the two of them. Carlos Alexander finding Sato and he shoots into the back of the net to make it 2. On to the second half though, 2 minutes into it, so very quickly, one before half-time, one after half-time, and a lovely bit of individual skill from Martin Wernblad there as he makes it 3. And then 10 minutes later, in the 55th, Carlos Alexander with the ball over the top to Funk. He turns back, finds Robinson, gets it back and lays it off for Carlos Alexander, who makes it 4 and wraps up the scoring. So Sato was the man on form and getting the plaudits for that one with his goal and assist. And I thought I'd actually show you the club finances with 20 million in the bag. That's the healthiest looked in a long time. So maybe we are making some progress. We then get an offer for Jacob Hajek from Inter, quite surprisingly. Maybe he did so well in that game that they actually wanted to buy him. But when I looked and I realised that we actually paid 5 million for him and they were only offering 8, that was quite a simple, easy decision. And we reject it. And we'll keep a hold of him for now at least. And then if we hadn't played him in the last episode, you probably wouldn't have realised that we still had Alexander Shishkarev, who we paid 1.5 million for all those years ago. Well, he has had a contract offer for Lokomotiv Moscow, so it looks like he will be going at the end of the season on a free transfer, which is probably for the best, as we've certainly got some much better defenders now. And talking of much better defenders, Bayern Munich have decided to get in on the action for bidding for Urena, and as we rejected the first one, we continued a few hours, and they came straight back in with another one with an offer of 32 million, which again was also rejected. And in the last episode, you might have seen me actually trying to get Sato to sign a new contract, which he wasn't willing to discuss because he's wanted, but for some reason, he's still wanted. He was quite happy to discuss one. So after removing the release clause from his contract, we have offered him a new one, which is accepted. So we'll see if that gets signed a little bit later on. But back to the football as we welcome Fulkert to Pittodrie in this one. And 3 minutes into the game, Sato flying it across and Semi puts it into the back of the net to give us a 1-goal lead and get us off to the perfect start. And 8 minutes later, Funk playing it into Profundi, Semi laying it off for Jay Robinson, and he goes through and slots it into the back of the net to make it 2. Fulkert did pull one back in this one with Marcos, causing all sorts of issues for our right back. And then Connolly with a layoff for our former player in Federico Redondo, scores against us to make the scoreline 2-1. We did think we got another one in the 67th minute, another one for Jay Robinson, but unfortunately it was ruled out for offside. So the scoreline remains 2-1, and that is how the game finished. So for the second time in 2 matches, it is Sato getting the plaudits, and we have now won 5 straight. And Lokomotiv Moscow are set to sign Shishkarev, so we wish him all the best because he certainly was useful for us for quite a long time. And I thought I'd have a quick look to see where we are sitting in the league. And after 26 played, we are winning the league by 9 points. So a fairly comfortable margin, and highest average rating is over Levi, which is pretty unsurprising. He has certainly been our best player this season. But we'll have a quick look through the player stats. And in terms of goal scorers, Profundi is sitting in 3rd with 13, but Yusuf Chamiti from Rangers is well out in front on 17. Wernblad in joint 4th as well on 11, so I was quite surprised at that as he scored a lot of goals for us, but must be across all competitions rather than just the league. Jay Robinson on 10 is pretty good going as well for a player in his position, as well as Ofer Levi with 8. But onto the assists. Sato is top with 14, 6 in front of Profundi, who's on 8. And yeah, Sato looks like he has got that one well and truly nailed down. Next up, we had a Scottish Cup tie against Airdrieonians at Pittodrie in this one. And yeah, not the start we'd have expected. After 1 minute and 25 seconds, D McMaster puts Airdrieonians 1-0 up. Caicedo does pull one back for us and level the game up in the 9th minute. So we weren't behind for too long, but we did end up going back behind again after Shishkarev gives the ball away and Nathan McCormack slots it into an empty net to make it 2-1 for Airdrieonians. 8 minutes later, Morgan Gibbs-White plays it to Shishkarev, Doig, Gibbs-White, back to Doig, back to Gibbs-White, back to Doig. Eventually the shot comes in and Doig does get the goal and level the game up. And then from this corner, I'm not entirely sure what happened, but we end up with a penalty for an apparent push on Moise Keane. And Moise Keane steps up and has his penalty saved. Certainly not what we would have expected in this game. A much tougher one than we thought. We do manage to go 3-2 up though, with Moise Keane getting his goal after all. And then right on the stroke of half time, Morgan Gibbs-White adds a fourth to make the scoreline 4-2. Not too much happening in the way of the second half though, other than McCormack scoring another one for Airdrieonians. But we do go on to win the game 4-3. And we do finally have the draw for the Champions League. And we have been drawn against a team from Portugal. Just not the one that's caused us so many issues in the past, as we are going to be playing Porto. And they have still got all their very good youngsters in. One of my favourite players actually on this game, Rodrigo Moura. He is still there, along with Samu up front. William Gomez as well on the wing. So a lot of their good youngsters have ended up actually sticking around, which is going to make this task even harder. And after we just offered him a new contract, he has signed it. So that is very nice to see that he's nailed down his future with us. And yeah, still only valued at 18 to 22 million, which I find quite surprising. But on to that very important first leg away at Porto. And yeah, going to be a difficult tie here. As I mentioned, they've still got a lot of their superstar youngsters. And I can imagine they're going to cause us problems. And in the 12th minute, Alberto Costa fires past the goalkeeper to give Porto a 1-goal lead. And yeah, not the greatest start for us, but certainly a great reply. Unfortunately for us, it was given offside. So not ideal, but great to show that the intent was there. And the intent might have been there, but it took us quite a while to get back into this one, with Sato laying it off for Carlos Alexander. He finds Profundi, who lays it off for Moise Keane, who came on for an injured Semi in the first half. And he levels the game up to make it 1-1. But it's not for long, as Samu puts Porto back in front in the 53rd minute. But then 4 minutes later, Martin Wernblad plays it to Profundi, who lays it off to Moise Keane, who slips it through to Martin Wernblad and quickly levels the game back up again to make it 2-2. And then 3 minutes later, they go for the attack and we win the ball back. And Moise Keane with a lovely through ball to find Martin Wernblad, and he puts us 3-2 up. So we have completely turned it around, unbelievably. And then in the 70th minute, Moise Keane gets his second goal of the game to make it 4-2. Before in the 73rd, Vega finding Samu as he pulls on back to make it 4-3. So an unbelievable performance from Moise Keane as he gets a perfect 10 rating, which is pretty good going considering he didn't even start the match and was only brought on to replace an injured Semi. And like I mentioned, Semi has picked up an injury and he's going to be out for 7 to 9 days. But unfortunately, Moise Keane has also picked up an injury and he is going to miss the second leg. And actually, Semi will also miss the second leg, as that is obviously going to be within the next week. So looks like we're going to be missing 2 strikers for that one. But great to see Moise Keane finally turn up, as he scored 2 goals in the Champions League. And he hasn't even scored a goal in the league for us yet. So, and a couple more bits of positive news, as Jay Robinson is progressing very nicely, as I've probably shown you way too many times this season. But he is progressing very nicely. And along with that, thought I'd also show you Pedro Silva, the centre-back who scored that screamer not too long ago. He's also progressing very nicely. The mentals looking pretty good, and technicals are finally starting to catch up. And unfortunately, we've also picked up another injury, and it is not looking too bad at the 1 to 2 days for Simone Profundi. But unfortunately, this comes the day before the second leg against Porto, so it does mean he's also going to miss out in the game. So that does mean we are going to be starting with Martin Wernblad and the youngster Hajek up front for this one. And we do have Semi and Profundi on the bench, but they have both got knocks coming into the game, so we certainly don't want to use them if we can help it. Vega playing it into Agahewa, and then Amarin finding Gabby Vega. And he really should have done better there as he shoots over and misses a great chance for Porto. And then we get a good chance ourselves in the 8th minute as Hajek plays a lovely ball into Robinson, and his effort hitting the post. Unfortunate there. But then 8 minutes later, Hajek, the youngster who's only playing thanks to injuries, gets on the score sheet and gives us a 1-goal lead, taking the aggregate tie to 5-3 and making things a little bit more comfortable for us as Gabby Vega hits the post and misses another great chance for Porto. And then in the 85th minute, another big chance. Porto had to do something here if they were to get back into the game, and Victor shoots all the way across goal and misses an absolute brilliant chance. And we look like we've gone at the other end straight away and scored, but unfortunately it was given offside, denying Ansu Fati, but looking at the replays, it wasn't even close. And then 4 minutes later, Hajek starting a counter-attack. Porto gone gung-ho at this point, and Hajek getting the ball back from Eric Adam and gets his second goal of the game as we comfortably go through to the round of 16 with a 6-3 aggregate win over Porto. And with news like this, it certainly suggests we rode our luck in that game with Vitek, the man getting the plaudits, so he must have obviously made quite a few saves to keep us in that game before we actually went and scored the first and then eventually the second goal. But we quickly find out that our reward for that is going to be against Manchester City, and Erling Haaland is actually still there. I've been and checked. They haven't actually won the league since they did in real life, I think in the 24-25 season, so they're maybe not quite as good as they once were, but with Erling Haaland up top, you know they are certainly capable of scoring goals against you. And this is how the rest of the ties are looking. Leipzig playing Arsenal, and a massive game between Manchester United and Real Madrid. And still quite a few big teams left in the competition. And and a few of them certainly getting easier ties than we did. But back to the league. We welcome Dundee United in this one. And spirits for us were absolutely flying high after the last game. And in the 10th minute, we certainly show that as Eric Adam fires into the bottom corner, getting Ansu Fati an assist in the process as we go 1-0 up. And then in the 26th, Eric Adam with an absolute brilliant strike from the edge of the box to make it 2-0, and he certainly started off this game very nicely. Hajek continuing his good form, causing chaos there, dribbling one way, teasing the defender, and eventually it comes back to him as he scores again to make it 3. And then we had to wait 43 minutes for the next goal, as in the 77th minute, Hajek playing it back to Prenkpolage. It comes out wide to Jimenez, and what a finish from him, although you've got to be questioning the goalkeeper there, as we make it 4-0. And then Hernandez spreads it out to the left to Hajek in the 86th minute. He turns, pulls it back for Eric Adam, and what a finish that is from the youngster as he scores his hat-trick, first for the club and probably the first as a senior professional, as we go on to win the game 5-0. Next up, we had a trip to Easter Road to play Hibs, and after beating them 5-1 and 4-1 in a pretty recent episode, we're expecting big things again here, as Simone Pifundi puts us 1-0 up in the 51st minute, which actually was the only goal of the game as we go on to win the game 1-0. So, two unlikely heroes helped fire us into the Champions League round of 16. A perfect 10 out of 10 performance from Moise Kean in the first leg helped turn the tie on its head after a poor start. And when injuries threatened to derail us in the return leg, youngster Hajek stepped up, scoring 2 goals to finish the job against Porto. And unfortunately, the reward for that is another massive European test as we play Erling Haaland's Manchester City in the Champions League round of 16. But that is going to do it for today's episode, and if you've enjoyed it, do me a favour, hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.